welcome everybody to yet another episode of Keep Pushing with me, Sujit K. Reddy. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about something that's one of my favorite things to talk about, and that's travel. And on today's show, we're going to have a guest from a travel company that specializes in travel for people of all abilities. So I'm excited to have that happen, and we look forward to this interview, and join us when we're back. We'll be back in a minute. Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are joined with guests from Access Holidays Canada. We have Brian and Joan Sims with us to speak about travel. So, Brian, welcome.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Joan, welcome.
Thank you.
So first thing I just wanted to kind of explore with both of you, or even with you or whatnot, what was the starting point or the beginning point of your desire to launch something like this for people?
Actually, the genesis took place in the early 2000 or even earlier than that. But the real kernel that came together and gelled the whole thing was I went to a presentation or a conference they had in the US. And I sat in the back and I listened to the testimonial part and discovered all the issues that persons with disability were having traveling. And then I spoke to my wife and said, maybe we should just put this thing together and go forward and see how much we can help individuals. Correct. So that basically is what we've been doing since then.
Wow, okay. And how does your organization differ from others in terms of the way you operate? You and I had a little bit of a conversation before we came on to camera, and so share with everyone, our audience is international, so share with everyone how that works.
Well, one of the main things that we can really be proud of is that we're good listeners. We first take the time to listen to the client, listen to what they have to say, what their issues are, and basically figure out a destination and see if that matches with the person.
Right.
If that is good for them, and we just draw back on the experience we have, because every year we do an international destination. We audit the destination.
Okay.
So the information that we share with the client is fresh information. Okay. And sometimes clients have done the research, they come to us, and we basically demystify what they have collected from the internet.
Right.
So that's some of and my partner being an OT, just gel the whole thing together.
Great. So something that you just said kind of sparked another question for me. So when you are kind of going to these different destinations and locations and doing your research, what do you do? What criteria do you use to kind of say, hey, this is an accessible space, location, and perfect for our customers?
A lot of time we connect with the tourist boards. We look at transportation, look at the infrastructure that's there, see what they have done, what their future plans are, see what degree of accessibility there is in the destination. Because as you know, just having a wheelchair is basically a cause for concern in a lot of areas.
Right.
So basically what we do, we ascribe a level of accessibility. So if we say to the client, level 1 or level 2 will work for you.
Right.
The client know exactly what it is. Then we touch base with a destination partner.
Right.
This individual is a level 2 and he or she requires certain degree of care. So the person know exactly what they're getting. And sometimes we even offer from the destination people, send us some pictures so the client has a greater degree of confidence. The client can say, okay, this is what the room looks like. This is what the transportation, this is what the tour has to offer.
Sure.
So once the level and the confidence is there, they are more likely to do something and go forward and make a positive decision about traveling.
Fantastic. And Joan, I'm gonna kind of turn the interview over to you because another thing that I found very fascinating about your model, about how you guys do stuff for the disability community to serve them, is you're on board with this whole idea, with this whole thing, and as an OT. And so tell us all what you provide to the whole experience.
Well, in the beginning, when we were looking at forming the company, I was really excited about it because in my long career as an OT, I had heard so often from different clients that they wanted to travel, but it was just too hard to find out anything, or they traveled and it had been such a disaster they said they wouldn't travel again. And so we did a lot of research, but what I bring to it really is I have a common language with a lot of people. When I ask a client what they need in a hotel room for them to be able to manage, they can say, I need a raised toilet seat, or
Right.
I need a bath seat with a back, or I need a roll-in shower. And we have that common language.
Sure.
Sometimes I almost hear a sigh of relief in their voice because they know that I understand what they're speaking about. So that's what I bring, and also, of course, a lot of the medical information. We can discuss what medications, how to pack your medications, the questions to ask your doctor. Some clients that have more medical issues, cardiac or respiratory, discussing with them how to travel, and if it's safe for them to be on an airplane, these kind of things that they need to ask their physician up front before they travel. And it's just that that ease they find, that they know that we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So another thing that comes to mind is, lingo and language and terms are all very, very important. And as we know here in Ontario, we have something called the AODA, and that's an act around accessibilities for Ontarians with disabilities. So maybe both of you, maybe Joan, you can start. Speak to that in terms of how this act has helped your business and hindered your business, and from your perspective, and then we can talk
Sure.
about from your perspective as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly we always say assisting someone with their travel plans to travel internationally, or assisting somebody coming internationally to Ontario, sometimes it's just as difficult. The AODA has done lots of things, but there are still a lot of gaps. I see we've been doing this 15 or 20 years, and I've seen a lot of improvements, but there's still the individual issues. Is the person going to be able to get from the airport? Now, at most airports, there's accessible transportation. The airports have done a lot for people with sight and hearing disabilities as well. There are more hotels with accessible rooms of varying degrees. But still you find gaps depending on where the person wants to travel and how they want to travel. And we see that in Ontario with the AODA. We see that in other areas with other laws. The States, of course, was the first to come in with their laws, and Europe has done a lot, and has built up a good accessibility basis. I think with travel, what we do is piggyback on what infrastructure the city or town has done, and just associate that with the travel, because of course when people look at the AODA, it's not for travel, it's for people living in the communities and how the people are able to use transportation and have jobs and housing, that kind of thing. So travel and tourism kind of piggybacks onto that area.
So Brian, do you think that with regards to travel and the AODA, is there anything that could be done to enhance it or improve it?
I would say from the standpoint of the AODA, I mean, have a stronger advisory body with individuals who are actually experiencing a certain degree of disability. And also, one of the key things to strengthen any act, as far as I'm concerned, is funding. Serious funding behind an act. It's nice to have an act, but when you have the funding behind it, it makes the whole thing more possible.
Right.
Like you have the ADA, and with all their rigorous attention to details and regulation, you have the Disability Discrimination Act in Europe, in the Eurozone. You have the Air Travelers Act, and all these different acts.
Right.
And what I find, I have a greater degree of confidence if I'm dealing with the ADA or the Disability Discrimination Act in Europe, because they have real regulations and serious monitoring of these things.
Okay.
I mean, Ontario, I know everything is growing,
Yeah.
and one of the issue also that impacts us, we have a decent size as population is concerned, but in the broader spectrum, the greater the population, the better the economy, the money, and so forth that it can really put to enforce an act and so forth. And there are a lot of positive sides to having the AODA, but I think they need to have greater monitoring, greater funding, and have it move from the standpoint of just from person with disability to mainstream. It needs to be on Main Street. Like people without a disability should be just as aware of the AODA as persons with a disability.
Absolutely.
It's as simple as that.
Absolutely. So, to more of a fun question. So, in your time of doing this in the last 18 years or so, what 3 destinations are common or people are asked about or you recommend to people?
I would say parts of the U.S. like Vegas and so forth. When you look to Europe, I would say Germany, Britain, France. Paris has its own mystique. Everyone wants to go to Paris. Germany, I would say Berlin. Britain, I would say is parts of Scotland and London.
Okay.
Because the mayor of London has really put, he's now Minister of State or something in the Brexit thing. I forgot what he is anyway. But they had put a lot of effort into really pushing London as an accessible destination.
Fantastic.
And they to be commended for that. There are other countries who have done just as much, but I believe accessibility in a broader spectrum is what it is, because regardless of where you reside, when you want to travel, you just simply want to travel. You want to know that this destination will meet your need, regardless of where you come from or regardless of where you want to get to.
But not to try and hurt your business or anything, but what would you say are the top 3 countries for accessibility and the bottom 3 countries for accessibility?
I'd say that
That's
I'd say the top 3 countries that are beautiful for. I would say Germany, Britain, France are the top 3 countries that I can say.
And probably the States.
And probably the States.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
just next door.
Yeah.
You can, we can do that, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Because the ADA is quite strong there.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
you know.
Yeah.
But in most of these countries, there's always the issue of accessibility. When you look at accessibility on a broad scale, you have to be cognizant of the fact that this applies a lot more, and it's more possible in urbanized area. Any country, you get into the rural areas and the whole thing starts to diminish. So if you want to travel in an area that's urbanized, that has the services and so forth, that is great.
Yeah.
But you just got to be aware that even though you may label the country as, pretty accessible, it's nice to go out in the general nether regions to see what the country's like, not just the urbanized areas. And I'd say the least accessible countries.
That's hard because we haven't been
That is
everywhere.
but that is hard. But I would say
Like, for example, why I
Yeah.
brought that part of it up is I know that you guys go and you audit countries and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. I think my inquiry is more, what countries have you found where you've gone to audit the country or the area or whatever and said, oh, you know what, this is not going to work because their infrastructure is not ready
Mm-hmm.
for people with disabilities or whatnot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I,
Mhm.
to some degree, it's not even so much a country, it's the area of any specific country that you're in. Because the other thing you have to understand, I mean, sometimes some of the real interesting kernels of a country is out in the rural areas.
Mm.
You know, because the core of most country caters to the tourism and so forth.
Mm.
So the infrastructure and everything is there.
Right.
But some of the real things that you miss
Yeah.
is out in the nether regions that you want to get
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
But so it's kind of, we try to focus on the positive aspect
Mm-hmm.
of if they're growing towards accessibility
Yeah.
than really labeling the country as not being accessible. Because
Yeah.
the thing about it, you can order this location and you ask them, what are your plans for future accessibility?
Yeah.
So if you label the place as not being accessible, you always have to go back and edit that to say
Right.
now they have
Now
changed,
they've
now
improved,
they have
yes,
done
yes.
this. So we try
Yeah.
to stay away from labeling them as not being accessible.
So,
Sorry, what we've done a lot of times when we visit attractions in hotels,
Mhm.
and some, of course, are more accessible than others. And of course, everybody, to me, there's no such thing as universal access. Everybody needs something
Yeah,
specific.
Mhm.
So some places would work for some and not others. But what we try to do is educate them of kind of what the basic needs are, and also give them some examples of some easy solutions. Making a wooden ramp that we've seen in some Caribbean hotels.
Right.
Educating them more on the customer service aspect, and some seem to be more approachable with that than others. Some hotels we visited have said, oh, we have, this client that comes every year, and this is what we do for this client.
Yeah.
And so they're more approachable. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how we try to
Yeah.
put a positive. And we also say, a lot of times we get the reaction, well, we don't see people who have a disability coming here. And so we say, well,
There's a reason for
they,
that.
There's a
they
reason.
can't,
Yeah.
if you build
Yeah.
it, they will come.
They will come,
And-
absolutely,
And,
yeah.
and some
Yeah.
places
Yeah.
have.
And
Have
one of
taken
the
that.
in part of our audit, destination audit, we label two aspects of that: hard and soft adaptation.
Okay.
Soft adaptation is where you can build a wooden structure,
Right.
and the hard adaptation is where you actually go in and rip out walls.
Yeah.
When you approach a lot of destination suppliers, you can't. There's always a pushback when you do hard adaptation. Well, money, blah blah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the soft one, and as soon as you get them over the hurdle of being comfortable with the soft adaptation, then you can move to the second.
Do you
second
find that when you approach
Mhm.
folks with these audits,
stage. Yeah.
do you find that they're receptive or not so much?
I think mainly
I would
they
say,
are.
yeah, on the whole.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, on the whole.
is it because you're opening up their eyes to something they're not
Yes.
seeing?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Becoming
and
aware.
give them, you
Becoming
give them a
aware.
bit of an education.
Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
Why they shouldn't be putting the towels on the grab bars
right.
and
Yeah.
roll-in shower.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Leaving
they
the
just-
shower head on the top.
Yeah.
I have that problem at my mom's house. So.
Yeah.
My sisters do it to me all the time.
So it's a small thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
they usually appreciate
Yeah.
the education. The other thing I was going to say is,
Mhm.
you don't want to label something as inaccessible, because what we often do is the client will come to us with a specific destination that they want to go to. And then we take that challenge on to make it as accessible as the person needs it, suited to what their needs are, wherever the place is. So whether it's going into the country with the driver, instead of taking a tour bus that's not accessible, but going in your own, in a vehicle with a driver, finding the places within that area that the person can manage. That's kind of what we do. Because there's challenges everywhere.
Absolutely.
And we also try to mention to the client is, you need to put on to a certain degree your flexibility hat. If you have to be able to embrace difficulties to a certain degree in order to achieve your long-term goal. So these are some of the things that we try to educate them on. There's no reason to say, I'm not going here. I really want to go here, but if you say this is not fully accessible, I won't go.
Right.
Then you're just killing the dream.
You're killing the dream, and you're also
exactly.
you're not allowing people who can spend the money to spend the money.
To spend the money.
Because I don't think a lot of people realize that people with different abilities, we have money too.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, like I said, I'm very passionate about traveling. I've traveled a lot of the world. Did so much when I was younger with my family, and there was some times where they could go do stuff, but I couldn't do it because it wasn't accessible.
Yeah.
Like for example, my family went and visited Stonehenge, and I'm very much about kind of history and whatnot. I couldn't do that. You know, my sister was in Paris, France for a while, but she was like, yeah, she knows how much I go through every day, and she's like, yeah, you would have been very frustrated with Paris and with France and such, and so
Frustrated, but we've had people go
Oh,
to Paris
I
and
tell
have
you.
a good
And-
experience. Yeah.
And going to Paris for a lot of people is experiencing Paris.
Yeah, for
Even if you sit in a little cafe in Paris and take a picture and send it, that's huge bragging rights. Man, I've been to Paris.
sure. So maybe I got to come to you guys. So you guys can sort me out.
We were in
that's
Paris
great.
in 2016, and it's. I mean, there are challenges like any big city. You know, we
Yeah.
took pictures of all the construction on the roads and that, but there are a lot of improvements in Paris for transportation
Lots
and
of stuff.
getting around,
Great.
and the
Fantastic.
tourist places, of course, are quite accessible.
Awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little bit of a break. I'm going to invite you to check out what these amazing people do with their organization during that break, and then when we come back, we'll share some more. Be back in a bit. So we're back with the folks from Access Holidays Canada, Brian and his wife Joan. And in closing, I just wanted to ask both of you the question in terms of where in say 5 to 10 years from now, where do you hope things are in terms of not only your organization, but the landscape of travel for people with all abilities globally?
Well, I hope, and I see it coming, that there will be so much more awareness and so much more attempt of countries to be universally accessible. There's lots in the papers and the industry, and especially our niche of disability travel, saying all the baby boomers are coming. Certainly the point people make is that people with a disability don't travel by themselves, they travel with their families. So the 15 or 20% of people around the world who have a disability actually impact probably closer like 60% of the people who are traveling, because the people traveling with them will travel to where the person can go, except Stonehenge. But I can see people becoming more aware of that in the travel industry, and hopefully, like Brian said, globally, that disability won't be a niche, it will just be an understood part of society.
Brian, anything else?
Yeah, I would love to work with Elon Musk and accessibility.
You get me to space, I'll love you for life.
But you know what I really think would be great?
Yeah.
There's a lot of travel apps out there now. And I think accessibility and the logo should be impressed in. There's no sense in developing any more apps. God knows we have enough of those things.
Yeah.
So if you could have this as a common part of a lot of the travel app, you know, so it's in the hands of persons with or without disability,
Yeah.
and it becomes more commonplace.
Absolutely.
The more they
Absolutely.
use it, the more they know. And for hotels to start specifying
Yeah.
exactly what it is
Yeah.
you have.
Yeah.
So when the person look on it, and even have a grading system for the hotel, they say this is a level 1, this is a level 2, and it
Absolutely.
makes all that difference.
You know, and it's already happening with great companies like Uber. Uber does an
Yes.
Uber Wave,
Yeah.
and so I know they're going to be coming to Toronto. That aspect of their company is
Yeah.
going to be coming to Toronto really soon, but they already have it on their app,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
so it's already built
You
in.
know,
It's just
yeah.
a
It
second
just makes
nature
sense.
thing. Yeah, absolutely. So that's great. That's great feedback. That's
Yeah.
great advice. So if people want to get a hold of you guys, can you please tell our audience how they can do that?
Okay, from our website, it's Access Holidays Canada, and it's services at Access Holidays. We also have a YouTube channel that we are refreshing. We're going to be doing Instagram Live. We have a Facebook page also. What we're going to do, we're going to refresh even more tweet lines and all that stuff so people can get, because we have to become more of a master of the Twitter sphere and the social media sphere.
course, yes.
You know, you can resist for just so long, and then you got to do it.
Right.
So we're going to have all those things taken care of. And what we're trying to do also is when we go on destination audits, we're going to roll the audit or wrap the audit up with an Instagram Live, so people can see exactly what we are seeing at that time, and get the destination people to also be part of it. And in the long run, hopefully, you know, we'll no longer be sitting back say we're doing something on disability, because it's commonplace.
Yes.
You're doing something on travel,
Yeah.
it has the accessibility aspects to it. And as soon as we get that, then we become a level playing field, universal access.
Absolutely.
As simple as that.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, as for me, you can get me on my Facebook page, Keep Pushing TV Show. Also, just to let you all know, we are about to be on Roku TV, so look for us there. The Disability Channel will be up there. I believe as of in the next few days, we'll be up there. So check us out there. And until next time, keep pushing. Take care. Bye-bye.